asbestos surveys. Can you talk about that?
Sure. One misconception is that um, an asbestos survey is a part of a phase one environmental site assessment. It's not, according to the standard. However, it's not uncommon to do an asbestos survey at the same time as a phase one environmental site assessment. So a phase one site assessment is really it's a review of available information. It's a site recon. It's um, a review of historical records. It's interviews of owners and community members. Um, a phase two is you're actually taking samples at the site. You're further evaluating the concerns you identify in a phase one. An asbestos assessment is kind of like that. It's almost like a phase two. Sometimes it's even lumped into the scope of a phase two, where you have suspicion of asbestos containing building materials, and anybody who's a licensed asbestos inspector, knows by at least visual observation what building materials might be, suspicious for asbestos.
Mhm.
And age isn't always the qualifying factor. Another misconception, as a side note, new buildings can have asbestos containing materials. It's not illegal to have building materials contain asbestos. Another misconception. And our neighbors typically we say neighbors to the north, but in Detroit we say to the south also, but Canada,
Canada.
it's, that's a lot of the major sources of asbestos come from Canada, where it's a big industry. It's mined. It's a naturally occurring mineral that's mined, and so it's quite common, and so not a big surprise, especially here in Michigan, to have asbestos and building materials still coming across the border. But regardless, yeah, asbestos assessments typically are taking samples of those building materials that are suspicious to contain asbestos. Um, when you grab those samples, we submit them to a laboratory for analysis to determine if there's asbestos fibers, which is that mineral that is contained in those building components, and then what's the percentage of those fibers amongst the matrix of that material. And if there's asbestos, now some of the state laws kick in, and your health and safety procedures, um, as far as if you're going to be renovating a building or you're going to be demolishing a building, there's OSHA and some of the other state laws and federal laws require that material often to be abated or removed from the structure prior to renovation, certainly demolition. So that's kind of why people want to know that, again, prior to acquisition or leasing. They want to know if there's asbestos containing materials in that structure. So one, they can either negotiate a price to deal with it, or um, certainly just be aware that it's present so they can protect their employees or occupants of the building, either through abatement or some other um, operational management kind of procedure. So in other words, encapsulation, or don't touch that wall, it's got asbestos in it, so we're going to not impact that material.